Welcome to Fortress of Faith with Tom Wallace, calling North America to repentance and revival.
Well, we're back once again at the corner of truth and courage. Thank you for joining us here today. My name is Tom Wallace. This is our third installment, third segment that we're talking to our listeners in Texas. I want to get a message out to those of you in Texas. You are facing a situation where the Muslims that are there in the city of Dallas-Fort Worth, in the metro areas, there's 30,000 Muslims that live there, and they're wanting to build a city. They want their own Muslim city, and it's called the Epic City. It's going to be about 40 minutes away from Dallas, north of Dallas. They have 400 plus acres that they've purchased, and they're trying to get planning permissions and all that stuff to be approved to build mosques and homes and schools and retail centers and business centers and so on there. Of course, in that city, they want to practice Sharia law. So we've been talking about, what do you do? How do you prevent this? I mean, do we really want Muslims in America to be establishing their own cities? Is that a bit of a conflict of interest? Or do we want our immigrants that came to our country to assimilate into our culture? Sure, you've got your rights to have your religion. We'd like to talk to you about ours, but you have your rights to your religion. You've got your rights to practice it fully. Is there something we can do to stop some of these things that are going on? Well, we've been talking about the two don'ts that you don't want to do. Okay, that was in the first segment. Then we talked about some of the things that you can do. And there's one thing that Texas needs to do, and that is to pass, only 8 states have done it, to pass the No Foreign Laws bill. That will protect you and your people and your state from Sharia law. You cannot mention Sharia law in that bill. They did that in Oklahoma. They had a referendum. 70% of the state voted to say, we do not want Sharia law, and they named it. And it was viewed as a violation of the First Amendment rights, and it was. And they lost in court, in federal court, and had to overturn what they passed. So Texas is about to make the same mistake, and you got to get the word out to the governor and powers that be to stop this. Do you need to dig deeper? So I'm hoping these 3 shows will help you, but let me give you another angle. And I teach this to politicians. If I meet with them personally, I get you a copy of this book. We call it The Reliance of the Traveler. It's a Muslim book. It is what we call the Sharia law book. They don't name it that. That's what's confusing. If you want to know, is there a book of Sharia law? Yes. It's called The Reliance of the Traveler. It's named such because Muslims are on a pilgrimage. They're on a journey. And as they travel through life, this is what they can rely on. It's the reliance of the travelers. They can rely on these laws, on these rules. It's Allah's laws. And that's pretty much what Sharia law means. When you say Sharia, you're just simply saying law, but you're meaning Allah's law. This book was first written about 700 years ago by Muslims in Arabic and translated into English. Here's what's interesting. In the beginning of the book, it has some very significant letters of acknowledgement and certification. One comes from the Al-Azhar University in Cairo, Egypt. This is the main school for clerics. There's no higher institution to study in the Islamic world. When Obama went to address the Muslim world in his first foreign tour as our president, he went to Egypt and he went to the Al-Azhar University. I've been there. He addressed the Muslim world, and all on the front row was the Muslim Brotherhood, the terrorist. But in this book here, it has their stamp of approval of this book. And what's interesting, they have the Arabic version and then the English version on the other side. Let me read to you what it says. We certify that the above-mentioned translation corresponds to the Arabic original and conforms to the practice and faith of the Orthodox Sunni community. Now, in Islam, we've got two sects, the Sunni and the Shia. The Shia is up in Iran, mainly. And the Sunni, though, most of the Muslims in the world are Sunnis. And they really are carrying, in my opinion, the more accurate rendering of Muhammad's Islam. Both are violent. Both are jihadi. They don't much differ there. Basically, from the highest honorable Islamic institution, collegiate institution, it's their Ivy League, they say everything in this book is faithfully translated and is consistent with our doctrines. Okay, so keep that in mind as I read some things to you, okay? And I can't read some of these things to you because we got to keep it PG on the radio here. Some of it is we just won't go there. Here's what I want you to get. If you miss everything I've told you so far, that's fine. Don't miss this. Here's what's important about this book. This book helps us separate the Sharia law from the religion of Islam. And this is a powerful argument. When we say that the First Amendment rights guarantees rights to Muslims to practice their religion, it does. They have every right to practice their religion, but they do not have the right to establish a foreign law above our law. It's not part of the religion. It can be separated, and let me prove it. There are over 1,000 pages in this book, 1,220 plus pages. The first 370 pages is the rules, the laws, the teachings of their religion. In it, it gives us their articles of faith. In it, it gives us who their God is, how he's to be worshipped. It gives all their ecclesiastical, I'm using a biblical term of ecclesiology, but it gives their rules for worship, how they do their sacrifices, how they do all their 5 pillars, their zakas, their almsgiving, their psalm, their prayers, the Hajj when they go on their pilgrimage. All 5 pillars are there. In the first 370 pages, that's the religion. But the next 700 pages is their government. It starts off with trade and businesses, and in it has an economic system, a financial system, an educational system, a legal system, a trade system, a commerce system, and then it gets into domestic stuff, your marriage laws, your laws for family and divorce and paternity. Those are the laws of their government. The first 370 pages are the laws of their religion. The other part is the Sharia of their government. And here's the thing. We already have a government. The First Amendment does not grant anyone the right to establish a government above our government. They have the rights to their religion. So we say to Muslims, say your prayers, build your mosque, go on your pilgrimage, give your alms, do your obeisance to your God and everything that he requires in that end. But it stops at the religion. It does not go into the Sharia of your government. That's not allowed here. That's where we draw the line. Well, let's take a quick look at some of these things that are in here. I got to be careful what I turn to. But basically in here, you're allowed to have 4 wives, men. If you're not satisfied with your one wife, you can, now when I say 4 wives at a time. So you can, if there's someone else you want to bring into your harem, you can divorce whatever, one you don't want and add, instead of a 5th, drop 1 and still have 4. And there's rules of how you share turns with your wives and all that, and if you marry a virgin and all those different things there. As I said, stuff I cannot read on the air. I'm just kind of going that. Now here also, it gives proof that Islam practices pedophilia. In it here, it says you cannot, if you're the guardian of the child, you cannot, a guardian may not marry his prepubescent daughter. If you're not the guardian, you can marry a girl that is underage. And so there's debate amongst the scholars of Islam how young you can go. And basically, just as long as it's not, intercourse is not going to harm them, then it's fine. And now the Prophet Muhammad, he married Aisha at the age of 7, but he didn't go unto her until she was 9 after her first period. And so they believe that's the practice. 9 or prepubescent is the age for marrying and so on. As I said, some of this stuff I got to be careful. How you deal with your rebellious wives and beating them and that type of stuff there. And by the way, women, Muslim women are the property of the husband, very clearly laid out here in the Sharia. And he can do whatever he wants with them. She is there's an expression in the Quran, a tilth unto her. It's a very rude expression. Forgive me, but it's like she's a field and you can plant your seed anytime, however you want, and she's your property. Divorce, we get into other things, justice and, sodomy. Clearly, there's only two big issues in sodomy. How do you kill them? Do you throw them off the top of a mountain, off a building, or do you stone them? And so that is debatable in the Sharia, but it's that's how you deal with it. I find it interesting here in America where the LGBTQ crowd is all standing up for these Muslims. A woman is only worth half of a man in a testimony, and that's exemplified in many ways. So when you give a testimony, a woman, one man's testimony is sufficient, and you have to have 2 women to equal one man's testimony if you have a compromising testimony. In the case of a rape, the woman has to have 4 witnesses to speak for her defense. I've not even gotten into things like killing of the apostates and jihad, and all that's in here. It's in their Sharia law book. Well, folks, the point is this. Muslims can have their religion, but they cannot have their Sharia here. We have a great piece of evidence to prove that they differ. There's a split. The First Amendment protects them to have their religion, but it doesn't protect them to have their law. Well, we're going to have to stop there. Let's get the message out to our leaders in Texas. And if you want more information, go to our website, fortressoffaith.com, fortressoffaith.com. We're also on the YouTube. We got a channel there, and we're on Spotify. Thank you for joining us here today. We'll be back again tomorrow at the corner of truth and courage. God bless you.